Response video to Zombie Picture Show for Vlogger on the subject of free will, and there has been an effort made to confine the conversation to these questions and to narrow the argument, and he hasn't done that. Yeah, I guess this will be the moderator's video as well as my response video, so I'll play both roles. Eventually I want to have some idea of a moderator, whether it's a collective, a group of people, or whether it's one individual who tries to point out to the participants in the debate where they're sort of breaking the whole point of the debate. And so I'll point out to Zombie Picture Show that, yeah, you're ignoring the concepts here. It's been clearly stated that the word free is on trial in this debate, that there is no such thing as free, and that the word we, or I, or me, these words are also broken and useless. A brain makes decisions, and it makes decisions based on programming running, not little men inside of our head. And even if you metaphored it as little men inside your head that make your decisions for you, those little men still wouldn't have anything called free will. Their will would be decided by principles, by ideas. There's a battle of ideas that go on inside of our heads. And the battle is decided, okay? Some ideas are King Kong, and some ideas are Little Bo Peep, okay? And when the fight happens, we know who's going to win that fight. It's determined. It's going to happen. And even the fights that look like there's going to be a fair fight, you know, it's Tyrannosaurus versus King Kong. The fact is, it's determined. The play is going to be played out, and somebody's going to make the right moves, and somebody's going to make the wrong moves in the battle of ideas, and an idea is going to win, and that's just sort of inevitable by the circumstances. It's just the way it is. The universe it's underneath it all, it's a static process. Underneath it all, it is confined to what's moving and where it's going, and it's a physical dynamic, and we can't escape it. It's the universe. I'm an expression of the universe. I'm not an expression of anything called me, because there is no me. I'm byproduct. I am not product in that sense. And so I will add to this list something about this little what we need to discuss, where we need to migrate the conversation, in my opinion, is to words like informed will, or disciplined will, or rational will, or competent will. That might be a worthwhile way to talk about what human beings are. But the word freedom is the word that's on trial here, and in my opinion, you haven't presented any evidence for any validity to this argument that there is such a thing as a free, and or that we can behave outside of knowledge. That informed will is the only kind of will you could have. You could have an informed or uninformed. You can have a disciplined or undisciplined. You can have a rational or irrational. You can have incompetent or incompetent, and competence would be back to informed, so that would be the circle. But that's the world to work in here. So anyway, but yeah, that's it's the me-I notion of an individual, not software, not programs. Oh, bummer. Firefox is. Yeah, I have to reload the video. So I can talk some more. It's bad timing. I really don't want to have to splice this, so I'll continue talking. Yeah, so that the subject at hand is this idea of a free, that there's some way to manifest it, prove it, demonstrate it, even as a logical proof. And what's being stated here quite clearly is that there's all this evidence of no freedom, all the evidence that you have to know how to box to win the boxing match, you have to know how to golf to win the golfing match. You can't go into the arena incapable. You have to go into the arena competent, and you're made competent by skills, but you're made competent by the acquisition of effects on you, and those effects make you capable. And without the effects, without things making you into something competent, you will not be competent. not on purpose, or not by the definition, strict definition of the word competent. You can accidentally do the right thing for the wrong reasons, but you're not going to do the right thing for the right reasons unless you know what the right reasons are. You have to be informed. You have to be made capable before your will can be competent or useful or productive or any of those good things. So anyway, let's get to the video, please. Moderator
Hello,
is done.
everyone. This is my summary of the free will argument. Hopefully, I'll make it 5 minutes or less.
And I appreciate you doing that, and I appreciate you participating, but you're ignoring the free will argument. You're ignoring what the free will argument is about. You're just reiterating what has been iterated in the beginning and what is being contested, and you're just saying, and that ain't going to get us anywhere.
Let me open up with a statement. You are the thinking self. You are the subject of that. The object of that is an idea. The idea of that thought forms your consciousness. So who's in charge? The spark of that thought or the awareness of that idea?
Well, that's really the whole point, right? Is that, yeah, of course, the awareness has to come first for you to spark some sort of something. You can't make it until you have the ingredients, and that we don't have control over any of these chicken or egg scenarios. That all of them are completely contingent on the world about us, the world that makes us. We are completely a cake that's made with definite, explicit ingredients. There is no magic-free juju.
Are we nothing more than epiphenomenalists saying that, yeah, the mind is a byproduct of the brain, because we all know that causality is universal, meaning there is an explanation for everything that happens. Since we're a part of this universe, we are the effect of that cause.
Well, you say we all know it, and then you just completely blow that out of the water by still saying you're free to do something. You're making these things called choices that are somehow free. So again, there's just no point in saying you accept a cause and effect universe, and then you're saying no, but, forget it. That doesn't work. It's incoherent to say water's wet and then to say it's dry. It's just pointless.
I will not like to dispute that, but believing that everything has an explanation, that is a retrospective deterministic fallacy.
A retrospective deterministic fallacy. What is that? What does that mean? How is it a fallacy to recognize what you just said, which is that it's a material universe, and you will do as the universe demands?
Just because something happened doesn't mean that our choices are determined from that causation.
Well, you said just a minute ago, well, anyway, I'm not going to argue it, but it does. There's no evidence otherwise, and that's sort of your burden. You're making the extraordinary claim that you have some sort of, like, the dice aren't going to bounce a specific way off physical walls. They're going to go in with a certain amount of force and roll and flip because of the environment they're being thrown into, and that there's no real not going to be. There's no not inevitable in terms of how they will tumble and how they will resolve themselves. They will resolve themselves in an end, and there will be no choice in the dice. There'll be physical circumstances that have to do with how they're thrown and what direction, and that's it. It's decided, and our brain is rolling or tumbling dice. And in spite of Einstein's "the universe doesn't play dice," God doesn't play dice with the universe, the metaphor of dice is just an illusionary one for human beings, right? There's no freedom in how the results would be.
To think so, to say so, will be erroneous, and a presupposition of that history, which is, of course, another fallacy.
Well, you can keep saying the word fallacy and presupposition. There's direct and cogent arguments put right in your face. There's no free. You can't hold one in a bottle. You can't show me one. You can't do anything with this word. It's a stupid, idiotic word, and there is no magical "I chose." No, your programs chose, your information chose, your discipline chose, your rationality chose. and it didn't choose, it decided. It won, period. And it could not have won based on the circumstances inside your brain.
We are chemically made of indeterministic actions. We were chemically...
Well, you say so. Again, indeterministic by what standard? What, do you mean we can't draw an explicit blueprint of every mechanism? Or do you mean indeterministic in that the chemistry does bizarre and weird things and we have no control over it? That all of a sudden oxygen mixes with gluon or pooon or suon, and all of a sudden King Kong pops out. No, I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. It does physical things based on physical properties, based on physical circumstances, and you can't stop it, and it'll do what it's doing. Period.
Made out of indeterministic actions. We came from disorder to order.
Well, order to disorder is the argument. Yes, that's correct. That's what's happening to us. We are being refined, filtered, informed, disciplined, rationalized, made competent through the filtering of reality into a specific kind of function. We are going from the parts to the watch, and it may seem like there's no way that parts go to the working of a watch through some mechanical process, but it's a 4 billion year process, and it did happen that way. Nothing built it.
And all of a sudden, this covalent and ionic bonding attracted, all of a sudden it reacted.
Yeah, well, action and reaction is what's being argued here. You're saying there's cause and effect can be broken. I'm saying it cannot. And you're providing no evidence for your magical, you can do it. You can choose. Show me.
But our choices are proactive. We made those...
Again, proactive doesn't mean anything. It's not even a useful word at all. It's a silly psychobabble word. So no point in defending free with a word like love or a word like proactive. Okay, that kind of crap ain't going to go anywhere. There's do and there is do not do, and there's nothing else in between.
World into what it is. And yes, the world made us. It shaped us into who we are. Every day it shapes us. But we're doing the same.
We're doing the same, but yeah, we're doing the same out of its energy. So as long as you're conceding that we're not doing anything, okay, but refining and confining, not freeing, but confining, and that our action is completely made out of the previous actions that came into us. Our function, our ability, everything had a pre-existing action. So our reaction is built out of the action. Okay, it's just a previous action.
Our ideas, by our actions, by what we freaking built, we are shaping the world.
Well, again, we and shaping the world. Again, we're talking about what is whether there is cause and effect that completely is in control of that process, or whether there's something else in control of that process. And when we say that we have a will, that somehow we are acting outside the boundaries of that physical confinement. Again, it's about the confinement that gives us any kind of ability to will. Without confinement, we couldn't become intelligent. We would have chaos. We would have nonsense. It's confinement that makes it possible to filter. That's what filter does. We have a filtered will.
We make choices based on the value of their worth, and the basis of that gives us our moral worth, thus proving that our motives matter.
Well, proving is another. I don't think it proved anything. The fact that we, through the mechanism of becoming informed and educated and skilled, that we become competent is true. Value is a tricky word because that's built out of our native psychology, our conditioning, our maturation, and then on top of that, what we learn through our life experience about value based on personal experience. We can maybe learn there's no value in rolling dice at the casino, because the odds are you're not going to win, and it's going to just be stupid. So you can devalue the experience by understanding that the experience, although attractive to a hoping individual, isn't attractive to a reasoning individual.
We have moral and ethical responsibilities to choose wisely.
Okay, we choose. We choose. That's the issue of debate here. The argument is that there is no we choosing. There is brain deciding. And brain decides based on running static programs.
To say, look, if you're, for example, against free will and say, well, we don't have any free will because I want to leap all the way in the air, all the way to the moon, or I want to travel to the moon, but I just can't, thus proving that I don't have free will.
Yeah, well, I can prove the confinement of our will in all these ways that I just explained. I'm confined to the obligation to go to medical school to be a doctor. That's a confinement. You can't do the thing without doing this thing that's required to do it. And the same is true for our ideology and our philosophy and our values and all of this stuff. You have to build the character to have character. I mean, I guess I should write that down. But you have to build it to have it.
But there's a thing called one's ability to do something, and another thing called rationalism. Maybe you heard of that.
I don't know, it doesn't mean anything to me.
Yes, we are part of this space, time, and causality, and this is how we interpret our universe. This is how we interpret our experience. This is how we interpret reality.
Well, you mean what? This is how you use baby talk to describe reality, okay? That's the argument being made here. You're using words that don't exist. They're la-la words. They're moo-moo words. They have no meaning, okay? They're useless to a rationing or reasoning brain. It can't do anything with this mushy free crap that obviously doesn't exist, because every argument we talk about something being improved, it's improved by a force, by something that has to be, that changes it, that makes it capable. It has to be enabled. It can't be just do.
But the mere fact that humans make choices that can have chaotic effects, i.e. riots, civil unrest, murder, theft, proves that there's a level of indeterminacy to our choices.
Well, again, there's no indeterminacy. We can see the patterns. We know that, okay, if you have the big emotional, all the little boys with their little tiny willies get all excited about the sports match, and they get all devoted to their kind. It's my color against the blues against the greens, and they get all emotional about it. And so this whole thing is a predictable outcome. It's a frickin', it's got transparent, obvious, viewable psychology written all over it. It's as dissectable as a connect the dots. You just connect the dots and you can sit there and predict it.
This is what separates us from the rest of the animalities.
Animalities? Come on, that's even going way, that's stretching it beyond even my let's make up words jargon. But again, what is that? Where's the separation? A tribe of chimpanzees decides to go commit genocide against the neighboring tribe. Are you arguing so that just popped out of nowhere? The decision was just made by somebody had the free will to say, let's go slaughter our neighbors. That there wasn't circumstances. It wasn't circumstances and pressures and confinements that created the outcome. Same for a bunch of rogue elephants or whatever you want to find that goes on a stomping raid. That somehow their stomping raid is different than a human stomping raid. No, I'm afraid not. Same exact process.
Yes, our brains are clusters of vats that are running to secure expressions that run apps that make our body go do-do-do-do-do. Choices.
Okay, you can't say running apps and then say choices. All right? There's just no point. I mean, it's just incoherent. All right? Apps don't make choices. That's the whole point of the app, is that it's an application. It does a specific thing, and it does it reliably and dependably. All right? So you can't use words like choices. Apps don't make choices. They decide based on circumstances, period. And they don't do anything called free. Apps aren't free.
Our mental activities are not reducible to neuronal events.
Well, you know, what? You're not going to prove that with anything. Nothing at all. You're just saying it. It's not reducible. Of course it's reducible. The homicidal chimpanzees, it's reducible to the neural events inside their heads where they got all the emotion virus spread among them. They juiced each other up, and the outcome is decided.
Case in point, you go to a play, you go to an opera, you go to movies, and it ends. You drive back and say, well, I love that movie. What do you like about it? Well, I love this part. And you say, well,
yeah, and you're going to do that based on your character, based on what kind of human being you've been built into, and what kind of reactions it'll have to words or phrases or the attractiveness of the players. Yes, that's going to decide your impression. No freedom. Your impression is going to be consistent with your personality, which is consistent with how it's been chipped and molded by environmental circumstances.
I don't like that part, but I love this part, thus making everything that we experience subjective.
Well, subjective is another word that shouldn't even be in this conversation. I'm not saying it's a somewhat valid word in the sense that each individual is born with different tools, lives in a different environment, is maturated in a different environment, and may be programmed with very different apps running on them, running on their hardware. Their hardware might be different, and the apps running on it might be different. So there's no universal human, but there are truths about the world, and the truth being argued here is that it's a universal truth applying to all actors on this planet, that they are confined. Their will is confined. It is not free.
There are several of objective facts. Yes, this is true. But everything that we experience makes it subjective.
Well, again, it's not the subject. The subject isn't whether or not you have an individually programmed brain. The point is you were arguing about the fact that it is programmed, that the apps are not free apps. They have a specific function. They either have error code or they don't have error code. They're either well-developed applications or they're virus software. This is the truth of it.
Naturally, the brain doesn't care for feelings, but heck, you got the limbic system for that.
Well, I don't know what you mean by it doesn't care for. I think obviously feelings are hard to digitize. They're hard to put into hard currency. It's hard to deal with the fact that the ambiguity of feelings to our senses and to description. And so it's hard to see feelings as controlled events, because they have this volcanic, explosive quality. They're foggy, they're misty, they're cloudy. That doesn't change the difference. The fact that clouds are soft and mushy and flowy and rocks are solid and durable and last billions of years doesn't change the fact that they're both mattering, and that neither one of them is free. We are no freer than the rock or the clouds.
Saying, fuck, wait, that was fucked up of me. I shouldn't have done that. That was really, really wrong of me. That action
is just the guilt app. That action is just another piece of your character saying, backseat driving, or driving in hindsight, 20/20 hindsight, looking at the mess you made and basically lamenting and saying, boy, you sure could have prevented this if you just weren't an asshole. But that's all that is. It's just another asshole app critiquing the asshole apps.
That thought is a community of little mind sparks within your brain.
Well, community of little mind sparks sounds a little bit like something that would be determined, but I don't know.
My final statement is my contentions. First contention is we are held responsible for our choices. We have free will.
No. Well, I'm sorry, that just doesn't go anywhere. Having responsibility imposed in the sense that the society runs an application, called rules and justice and preventative mechanism, and the fact that it confines the soccer match to a soccer match, not a football game. Soccer is soccer, not football, not basketball. You don't play basketball when you're playing soccer, right? So when you're playing soccer, you have to play soccer. And if you don't play soccer and you start playing basketball, the game is going to throw you off the field. Again, there's no freedom in there. That's a confinement by reason again.
Second contention, we are held responsible for our choices. Reclamation. Ergo, we have free will.
Well, again, there's a word for that when you use a fallacious argument. That's like the argument from. But those two conclusions don't. It's a non sequitur. You're going from one thing to a completely another thing and saying this equals that. No, it doesn't. There's just no connection at all, and I can't really logically argue it. But you're essentially just saying something stupid like God says so, and all I can say is no, He doesn't. Prove it.
Modus ponens.
Oh, provey
anyway,
wooby.
That's all I had. Thank you all for watching this lot.
Provey wooby. Anyway, yeah. This isn't very useful in my opinion. Okay, it might entertain you, but this isn't discussing the problem of free will, which is the word free and the word will. Do we have a do we? The we. What are we? And the argument is that we are programs. So you're saying free programs. Well, that doesn't make any sense. So you can have informed programs, you can have disciplined programs, you can have rational programs, you can have competent programs, you can have well-constructed programs, well-functioning programs, but there's just no point in talking about free ones because they aren't free. That'll about do it. Thank you very much. Until next time.